Hey, this is Stephen Platinum, your friend in wrestling with Platinum versus AEW Dark from November 17th, 2020. Let me look at my notes here. 3, 6, 9, 12, 13 matches. 5 of them involving women. I'm just going to do my little sort of editorial here at the beginning while most people are listening. I love AEW Dark. I do. I love the idea of it. I was really glad to hear that they're going to add a third hour of programming on TNT that is AEW related, and it is not going to be Dark. I don't think Dark should be there. I think, in the same way NXT used to be a pretty good litmus test of trying things out, and now it has to be a third brand where guys sort of interchangeably move back and forth to it, but it still has the distinction of being the B or even C-list show. I think AEW Dark, by just fully embracing what it is, it's really good. And, you know, the criticisms towards AEW that are legitimate, they do clearly hear and are making strides. Now, it does feel like 5 women matches when sometimes you don't have even one, and you never see Hikaru Shida, it seems. Seems like overkill, but it is a move in that direction. There are a couple of promo bits and segments that happen that are really good. I'm not going to talk about them. I'm just going to kind of breeze through the matches. But I will say that the bit at the end where you had Darby Allin, and Cody Rhodes having a little dust up with Taz's guys, right? Brian Cage and Ricky Starks. Really great. It's the kind of thing you would expect to see on Dynamite, but maybe they were wrestling on Dynamite, and that's why they did it here. In any case, the show ran between an hour and a half and 2 hours. First match, we've got the Gun Club with Colton Gunn joining Austin and Billy against Bishop King, Joey O'Reilly, and Sean Maluta. All right, for those that have been listening a while, they know about the 3-check system, but if you don't, real quick sum up. If it's a competitive match, and on this card, we only had one matchup that I considered a true competitive matchup, and that was the main event. In that case, you get 3 check marks. Either way, you get 3 check marks. But for a competitive match, you get 3 check marks if both guys look good, if there is a definitive finish, and if something is advanced in some way, shape, or form in a bigger way, either angle-wise or somebody gets sort of a character push of some kind. For the other matches, which, are enhancement matches or jobber matches, nothing wrong with it. It's what AEW Dark is for the most part. So I've come up with a grading system for that as well. Is the team or individual that is supposed to be highlighted and sort of propped up put over? Are they put over properly? In other words, is there a finish that is clean and makes them look good? The second check mark is if the person who is supposed to be getting the beneficiary of the win, do they look good in the process? Do they look like somebody that could wrestle on Dynamite and you wouldn't roll your eyes? And the third check mark is if the enhancement talent / jobber looks good in defeat, either does a really good job or is made to look good by their opponent. All right, so we got the Gun Club against Bishop King, Joey O'Reilly, Sean Maluta. Bishop King, Joey O'Reilly, and Sean Maluta don't really distinguish themselves that well, but Billy Gunn, anything Billy Gunn's involved with, he always does a very good job of making sure sort of everybody gets their spots. He really is a ring general in there. And that's something that AEW needs, especially on Dark. I think it's great to have the guys that are really good at working with the other talent. Austin Gunn eventually gets the pin with the quick draw, the hip toss into the neck breaker thing that I hate, but I've grown to accept it. 3 check marks here, though nothing exceptional. Neither Bishop King, Joey O'Reilly, or Sean Maluta really stand out, but they also didn't fuck up. Match number 2, Ricky Starks against Travis Titan. I thought it was interesting that Ricky Starks won with the spear instead of the Rochambeau. I think it's smart for somebody at Ricky Stark's position on the card to establish 2 different finishers. I think it's one of those things that'll benefit him in the long run because because if he's going to be wrestling larger faces, he is not going to put the Rochambeau in a way that looks good, likely, onto, say, Luchasaurus. See what I'm saying? Anyway, he beats Travis Titan by pinfall. Ricky Starks is one of these guys that, after a couple of initial matches on Dark, where I thought he guzzled the guys he was wrestling too much for fear of looking weak, he now is one of the guys that really works well with people on Dark. So 3 check marks here. Match number 3, Joey Janela against Marco Stunt. I guess you could call this a competitive match. We'll treat it as such because both of them are kind of more prominent. Joey Janela defeats Marco Stunt with a move that looks really, really good, actually. I'm going to give this 3 check marks because they both looked good. Joey Janela in particular looked really good. And they advanced a little thing. I would look for a tag match between Joey Janela and Sonny Kiss and the Jurassic Express in some way, shape, or form. 4th match, Frankie Kazarian and Griff Garrison. This is the best that Griff Garrison has looked. He really looks like a guy that eventually will be a regular part of the card once they find a really good spot for him. And Frankie Kazarian is maybe the best at working with just about anybody. Just a consummate pro. Big fan of Frankie Kazarian. I really like his look that he's got going on. Yeah, just great shit. And then he shows up in our main event as well at ringside for Christopher Daniels. So good stuff. Penelope Ford, match number 5. So obviously 3 check marks there. Let's see if we can have a whole show of 3 check marks. That would be a first, and it would be awesome. Penelope Ford against Reign Victoria. Really good, and it was nice to see. Really was great to see Penelope Ford in the ring again doing her thing. Boy, the more that she can separate herself from that fucking mess with Kip Sabian and Miro and that shit-tastic push, I guess you're calling it that, going on. But Penelope Ford shows she's got the goods, kind of keeping pace, good stuff. 3 check marks. You know, her, what does she do? A fisherman suplex, perfect plex kind of thing with the high bridge. Great. Good stuff. Our 6th match, Brandon Cutler against Ryzen. Big fan of Ryzen, as people know. Colorado guy. And Brandon Cutler on a bit of a win streak since beating the librarian, Peter Avalon, who is now Pretty Peter Avalon, who was, by the way, in another funny, stupid sketch that is very worthy of AEW Dark. It's a great addition to that show, I think. I don't know if it's Dynamite worthy. It's certainly not Dynamite worthy. Let me make that clear. But it's great for AEW Dark. But Brandon Cutler defeated Ryzen. And a good look. 3 check marks all around. Great job by Ryzen as always. 7th match was one that I was very excited for because it's got Layla Hirsch, who I've been a big proponent of. And any of the talent, especially the female talent that I have urged, AEW has signed on, whether it was Red Velvet, whether it was Ivelisse or Diamante, etc., etc., etc. Layla Hirsch just looks like $1 million. She just looks like a badass. I was looking at the comments and a lot of them were saying stuff like, oh, she should be on Taz's team. So people recognize that she's got a little something different from the women's division. Tesha, Price just looks like new money. I mean, she's good looking, and good in the ring, though it's kind of hard to tell because these are matches where she's expected to put the other people over, and she certainly does it here in fine style. Layla Hirsch wins with the cross arm breaker. Great fucking match. One of my favorites on this show. 3 check marks all around. Good job, everybody. Jurassic Express. Now, Marco Stunt wrestled earlier, so now we got Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus going up against TNT, who are Devon's sons, and you can see it all over the place. There's a couple places where they get hitched up, and it's definitely awkward, but Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus kind of carry it through. Luchasaurus is one of the best hot tags in the game, along with Xavier Woods. Those are 2 guys that whenever they get the hot tag, you know you're going to see something new, and everything's going to flow, and it's going to go well. Awesome. Jurassic Express win. 3 check marks here because they do a good enough job carrying TNT through. Obviously, they're going to bring back TNT in the future, so it behooves everybody to make sure that they look good. The next match is the Acclaimed, who's one of these teams kind of out of nowhere that they've signed. Anthony Bowens and Max Caster, who again do a little battle rap thing and tear apart Asian Angel fashion. That name is ridiculous and I kind of love it. And D3, who I think is really good as well. They defeat him by pinfall. There's really this is very typical of a match you would see between two indie teams, except done well. I mean, I'm not saying it's just crap because of that. I'm just saying it's very typical of what you would see on the indies, but it's done well enough. That finisher for Anthony Bowens and Max Caster, I'm not in love with it. Just like I'm not in love with the Flight group. Their finisher, I thought it's just kind of unwieldy and it's not sexy. But beyond that, 3 check marks all around. The Acclaim clearly getting the pushy push. Next match, another women's match. This is our third one. Ivelisse with Diamante at ringside against Alex Gracia. Really good match. Alex Gracia really impressed me here. And Ivelisse, of course, is a consummate pro, has been around, knows her shit. I love that weird little snap mare where she rolls through with the opponent and then kick to the face. In this case, it was kind of like the kick was low and it was sort of oversold, so it didn't look great, but I do like that finisher, and I like this match. Ivelisse, Alex Gracia, 3 check marks. And another women's match, Thunder Rosa is back, and with Lindsay Snow, who's big time on the indies. The American Kaiju, I believe she is. But she's, impressive looking. They have a good match. Clearly, they've worked together before. Thunder Rosa wins in impressive style. Thunder Rosa's stock rising. I would imagine that any number of groups, WWE, AEW, Impact, are all interested in Thunder Rosa. And she's all about, I'm going to get my NWA Women's title back, which is a cool thing. 3 check marks. Looks like we're on the 3 check mark land, guys, because we got Big Swole against Kylan King. Everybody knows how much I adore Kylan King, who they've given a win or 2 recently, but she's not going to beat Big Swole. But Big Swole wins with the sharpshooter with the knee in the back, but she falls over. Awkward looking, but Kylan King taps out, makes it look good, facial expressions on point, saves this match. 3 check marks. And then finally, Jack Evans with Angelico at ringside defeated Christopher Daniels with Frankie Kazarian. Jack Evans looked really good. The little cheating things that they did were effective without making Christopher Daniels look stupid or Jack Evans look like he couldn't win without it. And obviously this is going to set up a tag match between SCU, or the incarnation of SCU with Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian, at least, against Jack Evans and Angelico, known as TH2. So you got 3 check marks there. 3 check marks up and down the aisle for this edition of AEW Dark. A very good show. Who was the performer of the week? Kylan King did a great job making Big Swole look good. And it was really great. So I would say the women kind of ruled the roost on this one. I mean, Griff Garrison did a good job, but Kylan King, I thought, did a great job by making Big Swole look good. I think Big Swole at times can look kind of choppy and mechanical, but also sloppy at the same time. I know that sounds really harsh. I love Big Swole, but I call him as I see him. And Kylan King kind of kept all that under wraps and made it look good. But Tesha Price did a really good job making Layla Hirsch look great in her first win. So I'm going to give a tie to Tesha Price and Kylan King. Thank you for joining me. I'm Stephen Platinum, your friend in wrestling.